Good morning, Comrade. You're listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. This is your weekly Good Morning Comrade. Jeff and Robert here on the show. Robert, we got a lot to talk about today, don't we?
We got a lot, man. Yeah. So as I sit here right now, has there anything been going on in the news that we should discuss?
You know what's crazy, man? We just started 2025 rather. And we couldn't even get till 3 a.m. before some crazy stuff was going down. You know what I mean? Automatically got a car just driving down the road, running into people, hitting people, poor innocent people having fun on Bourbon Street. You got the city coming out saying it's a terrorist attack right off the bat. You had no reason to know why anything's going on with this. I mean, maybe it is a terrorist attack. I'm thinking about it in the moment. Maybe it was a terrorist attack. Maybe it's not. But when you got the mayor coming out and just basically saying, yeah, it is. I mean, that means they just are immediately just going to 11 on everything.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
And then 3, you got them coming out and saying that hey, they're this is the day of the Sugar Bowl. And you got the city coming out saying, hey, it's chill, tourists. The only people getting hurt out here are locals. Which is what?
I mean, that's how we rock here in the city of New Orleans. No, it definitely was a terrorist attack. But it was a terrorist attack in the same way.
What I'm saying is that Tory Cantrell didn't know that at the time. It was right. Instantly, boom, terrorist attack. We can spend all the rules. We can do whatever we want right away.
It's a good way for the city to get federal funding. I hate to be that cynical, but that's the first thing that's come out of this, and now we're going to mismanage and waste that money just like we wasted the COVID money. It definitely was a terrorist attack by this guy, but it was a terrorist attack in the same way that Timothy McVeigh, I know a lot of you kids out there aren't old enough to him, but when he blew up the Oklahoma Federal Building, Timothy McVeigh was a terrorist attack, was a lone wolf terrorist attack. What was really disgusting was all the talk of trying to gin up a new war in the Middle East, a new Spanish-American War, a new Vietnam, a new Gulf of Tonkin, a new remember the
It's like the old canard that even Rahm Emanuel would say, never let a good never let a good catastrophe go to waste. Absolutely. It's literally carpe the moment, seize the moment. Let's just this is an opportunity to get some bread. The dust is in the air, and we can definitely get the advantage here. That's the default when it comes to the sort of imperialist mindset.
No, you're 100% accurate. Never let a good tragedy go to waste. And the idea that, if you're a weirdo leftist politic freak like I am, you read stuff from all sides of anything just to have a better understanding. So if you're a weirdo and you've read, I honestly don't recommend you seeking this out or reading it unless you just don't care like me and you're going to end up on a list. But you can read. There's a nice little pamphlet because they tried to blame this thing on ISIS. Tried to say ISIS is organized and ISIS is back and this. And that.
ISIS flag, but again, but you can be pretty I don't know. ISIS was sort of much like Al Qaeda was sort of a spinoff of something that was initially started by the U.S. government.
Correct. But even more than that, without actually looking into the tactics and the motivations of these different terrorist groups, if you read a little pamphlet by ISIS leadership at the time, it's called the Management of Savagery. And it's really about how ISIS leadership, it's from the top down, them saying, hey, we got to put a kibosh on all the head cutting off and all the killings and drowning people in cages and all the gross stuff.
Bad PR. It's bad PR.
Yeah, that's exactly what they said. They said, one, it has the opposite effect. And then two, Americans are so desensitized to violence that it's not going to even have the intended effect on them.
Don't work.
And they're 100% correct. I mean, the very next day, everybody's out on Bourbon Street just doing Bourbon Street stuff. It's just how desensitized we are to any kind of violence. And so that's why, like,
school shooting in Georgia today, and nobody batted an eye.
Today, I didn't know that. See, I had no idea. I've been on the mental health app all day of Little Red Book, which is so good for your mental health. I'm not even being facetious. We can talk about that later. Mm-hmm. But so like terrorism as it used to stand, even with stuff like the PLO hijacking airplanes and stuff like that, like this stuff is just not effective anymore. And so you see these organizations, these terrorist groups, these terrorist cells, they just won't engage in that because it just doesn't have a good return on investment.
What they have to do now is they have to like interrupt like the jalapeno poppers, or absolutely. They need to interrupt like honestly, the U.S. government is doing the best possible like self-radicalization of its own populace by like, hey, we're gonna ban TikTok, so like the people are gonna mad about that. Like that, that'll do it. That'll make people like really ticked off and ready to do something.
We can talk, and we're definitely gonna, you're gonna hear me rant about that later. But the idea of this city, like the terrorist attack that brings us down. I wake up New Year's Eve. Like I wasn't gonna. There was no. I text my dad the first thing, and I was like, hey, I just want to let you know, there's no world that I'm on Bourbon Street at 3 a.m.
on New Year's,
especially on New Year's. Like that world just doesn't exist. There's no timeline where you're going to find me with that. Yeah. And the problem with Bourbon Street, for everybody who doesn't live in New Orleans or Louisiana, who's never been there, the problem with Bourbon Street is not that Bourbon Street is any more dangerous than any other, like, bars are open all night, entertainment district in the United States. It's definitely more dangerous in the world. Like you can't compare it to like Shanghai or Roppongi in Japan or something like that. Like, yeah, you're going to see some crazy stuff, but it's not any more dangerous than any place in the United States. The problem with Bourbon Street at its absolute best is that you have, what is this? I would say this 22nd century now, because we're in 2025. You have 22nd century accoutrement, cars, people, cell phones, people hawking beer, the whole bit on a street that was meant for at max one horse and buggy at a time.
Yeah,
that's the problem. So my story I always tell people about Bourbon Street.
They kept it that way on purpose, by the way.
I mean, I don't know anything about that. You'll know more than, as a New Orleans native, you'll know more about that than I do. But the story that I tell people about, my experience on Bourbon is why I don't go there anymore. It has nothing to do with, oh, it's so dangerous. Oh, it's so nasty. Oh, there's horse poop everywhere. It's not that. It's one time when I was in the Marine Corps.
That's the best parts.
Yeah. But when I was in the Marine Corps with, I was in Pensacola, which is a 3-hour drive away. So we used to come over here all the time. And I was with my girlfriend at the time, and we had just left the old, I think we just left Big Daddy's, and Big Daddy's doesn't exist. It ain't there no more, but it's the thing that you would always see with like the swinging legs. So we just left that.
Wow. Big Daddy's gone. Are the swinging legs gone?
No, they've been gone, dude. They've been gone for like,
oh man, that's
like at least a decade.
That's heartbreaking to me.
God, that's how long
I don't go to Bourbon Street that much. I haven't in a long time, but like that was like.
It was gone when I moved here, so that's at least a decade.
We did a 5th grade field trip, and like for some reason, part of it was like walking through the French Quarter on a day, like in the middle of the day, when I was in like 5th grade, and like we were like walking around, and we just sort of like see the legs kicking out of the bar, and it's like, what is that, Mrs. Teacher? It's just like let's keep going.
It's awesome. It's Amsterdam on Wish is what it from Wish, but you didn't have Wish back then, obviously. But the problem is not Bourbon Street itself. The problem is, like I said, it's so many people on a street that's not even built for cars. And I was down there, at least 15, probably almost 20 years ago now. And I'm like 4 daiquiris in. I'm hammered, right?
Having a good time.
Well, all of a sudden something happened. I have no idea what happened. And all of a sudden I see EMS trying to come down Bourbon at like on a Saturday night. And once I saw how unnavigatable that was for the ambulance, it sobered me up instantly. And I just thought, if something happens to us here, there's nothing I can do. Like, you can't get out. And that's the problem. That's the problem with bourbon. So with all that being said, the idea that I'm just an idiot with a hobby podcast on a low power FM radio station. And so the idea that the city of New Orleans, the smallest, I'd say the geographically smallest destination city in the world. And I say this all the time. When you talk about destination cities, you talk about Tokyo, New York City, you talk about Paris. New Orleans is in that conversation. Shanghai.
Yeah.
New Orleans is in that LA. New Orleans is right there. And the idea of the epicenter of New Orleans tourism, that you're going to have the most rinky-dink barriers that are going to keep, that are not going to be able to keep
poles, literally just like poles that screw into the ground.
They're not even going to be able to keep an e-bike out of that, off that street when you don't want it. Set up on New Year's Eve is absolute malpractice. And it's in a sane world. And I'll tell you this, it's not like we didn't have, here's the stories I've been hearing, is that, the barriers that could have stopped this were broken. Oh, he ran up on the sidewalk. Well, these barriers are movable. You could have easily put one on it. It's not like a barrier that you can put it on the sidewalk. And it would have destroyed an F1. Yeah, it would have destroyed an F-150 Lightning.
They got a couple of different kinds of barriers, by the way. Like, you're talking about like some of the like bollards that they have that kind of like rise up, and then they also have the police line do not cross. Like those
aren't going to do anything. The police line do not cross is not what I'm talking about. The ones that pop up and the ones that, like, I don't care if you're running over there with a Macava tank is the only thing that's going to get through there. A Ford F-150 doing a turn on Canal and Bourbon is going to be destroyed. Ain't Ford built nothing that tough ever. Yeah, it ain't a Volvo.
What I'm trying to say, that there's like different kinds that are being used, and that like, this is one that was not the one that you're describing. And even the little police line do not cross, like that could maybe slow it down a little bit, but like that wasn't even being used. Like even the easy stuff, the simple stuff that can kind of keep people from like, terrorizing through the quarter on their, in their F-150 Lightning, like you said.
I got to put my cop hat on, as somebody who graduated a police academy, was a peace officer of the, state of Louisiana. The idea that if we live in a sane world, this happened, whoever made the call not to put the barriers up, and whoever made the call not to have the ones that we that are currently out there not fixed in time, because there's a million of them out there right now. You best believe.
Oh yeah, they got.
I cross Bourbon every day.
They love making sure that the theater is in place after the thing happened.
Right. So the person who in a sane world, what would happen is there'd be an investigation. They would find out who signed off, who made the call not to put those up and not to get the ones that we have fixed. That person would be liable for involuntary manslaughter. 100%. If you're, and I tell you, I'm not talking crazy, because how the involuntary is written, it's something like this. If I'm a construction worker and I make the call not to put barriers up inside of an open manhole, and somebody falls in there, I am on the hook for involuntary manslaughter on that. And that's how that thing works. And so, but that'll never happen. The police aren't taking responsibility.
And the
city's not taking responsibility.
Literally shoot somebody on purpose and not get in trouble with it. They ain't getting no involuntary manslaughter for a guy driving their F-150 Lightning through the quarter and killing a dozen people or whatever it was.
Right. So we live in a world where, nobody's going to take responsibility for this. There's no blowback. We're going to have the Super Bowl in like a month. The city's in shambles every day. This city feels like a city. This city feels like a kid who's trying to do their schoolwork. They're trying to write their essay on the bus on the way to school. And it's too late for that. We knew all these events. New Year's Eve happens every year. The Sugar Bowl happens every year. We get the Super Bowl twice a decade. And the idea that we're not prepared is absolutely disgusting. It's like, I want to know where the money is at. I want to know where the money's at, TD, because you're spending all this cash, all these federal funds, and the city is still a trash.
I mean, you
And
remember?
I've had it, dude.
You remember the time that we had the Super Bowl in the Superdome? I think it was the Ravens versus the 49ers, and like a transformer blows out, and
I remember watching that in Ohio.
That was complete darkness during in the middle of the Super Bowl. The entire country's watching New Orleans infrastructure fail.
And again,
awesome.
I think about, New Orleans is a special place. It's not, and I understand with some things, they are what they are, and we're not the most southern city one of the most southern cities in the United States. We're the northernmost city in the Caribbean. So I get it. It's fine. I understand we live below sea level. The streets are never going to be right, but we cannot have it both ways. We cannot have this laissez-faire, do what you want to, hang on the corner, it'll all just work out attitude, and then want to be this worldwide destination host city. These two things are not compatible. We have to pick one. It's either the place where you do what you wanna, and it's like we're living in, I don't know, I wouldn't even say that. I was gonna say like Negril, Jamaica or something. No, definitely not Amsterdam. But like, we're living in like I don't know, some Caribbean country, which God bless. Like, I love those places.
We love it.
Or we're gonna have to have some kind of actual working infrastructure if we're supposed to be this boon. Remember how bad that the amounts of money and tax breaks that we wanted to like just give away to kind of become some kind of a tech hub, and then all these tech companies love that too, because they were like, oh yeah, we get to come down here, and because your cost of living is lower on average, we're going to pay you less. But as soon as they came down here, they were like, absolutely not. Nobody, we can't get people to come down here and live. Like, we're not going to get somebody who's used to the infrastructure as bad as it is of San Francisco, LA, or Seattle, and then come down here where it's like, you don't know if a pothole is going to destroy your car, destroy your new Tesla, your self-driving car. So it's like, no, that's never going to happen, because we try to have it both ways in the city. And I hate it. I'm over it. And now I cannot wait. I don't
think it's going to ever change that specific mindset. Honestly,
no, it's not, because what's going to happen next is we're going to have our next mayor is going to be Republican. I know everybody's talking about that.
Helena's going to be mayor.
Yeah, like, and even if she runs, she's going to take a hard right stance.
Helena is definitely running. Like, she's already running, right?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything, to be honest. But I'm telling you, our next mayor is going to be a Republican. Like, this is ridiculous, because people are just tired, man. It's the same reason why Trump won, because the Democratic Party here is so weak, so feckless. They don't take care of people's needs. And so now that leaves a position to where the Republican Party can just come right on in and just say what the Democratic Party has been saying forever is, we're not these guys. Give us a shot. And then it's going to work. It worked for Trump. It's going to work here. It worked for Jeff Landry, our governor. It's going to work here in New Orleans too. It's disgusting. I'm super pissed about it, and it's just one more reason why I'm just not necessarily America. I'm just done with the American enterprise.
Yeah. You're listening to Good Morning Comrade, 102.3 WHIVLP New Orleans. This is Jeff and Robert here on the show. You mentioned Trump winning. A couple of months ago, we were doing live coverage of that event and sort of like seeing that take place and watch the bottom fall out. Trump got another big win as of today when it comes to the ceasefire that took place in Gaza today. That just like literally just dropped like yesterday.
Just happened, yeah.
And like, this is one of those sorts of things when I see it happening, it's like, yeah, no duh, like Trump is going to get like full credit for this thing, because
as he should.
He should get full credit for it. But like, it's not because he earned it or whatever. It's because, and this is what always happens over and over and over again, the Democrats just leave the door wide open by, in this case, like not applying the least bit of pressure.
I know what you're trying to say. Like, to go back to
the least bit of pressure to Israel to do anything to stop it. And Trump, who, if he's nothing else, he's somebody who is able to sort of like put his finger in the air, understand which way the wind is blowing, and be like, hey, if I come in and do this, I can do a couple of things. One, I'll make the city of Dearborn basically Republican for a generation or more. Mm-hmm. Two, I'm going to look really effective and strong coming into the presidency, like before I can even step in. And then three, the Democrats are going to do what they always do and be like one, bow their heads, and two, at the same time, in this weaselly way, and it's going to come through as weaselly to everybody, they're going to try and take credit for this because their guy is the one that's technically in office. And it's just falling into every single trap that, like, and they're not even complicated traps, but it's like falling into every single one that the Republicans just like automatically set. Again, this is like you keep saying, Weimar America is like just fall. All the dominoes are falling, and the Democrats are essentially gonna like. I essentially like can see. You remember in like 2012 when the when the Democrats rather, all of a sudden like started embracing the legacy of like Ronald Reagan and saying like he was a great president. I can see in 30 years, if I'm alive to see it, the Democrats being like, oh, we have to embrace the legacy of Trump, one of those great uniters of this country. Like that's just literally what I'm looking at right now when I see like the future. You know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean. And just to go back to like, we're going to host a Super Bowl in a couple of weeks, but just like a football analogy would be that it's not necessarily, like you said, it's not that Trump cares about Palestinians.
No, he doesn't give a damn. He's gonna sell off the West Bank. He's already told Miriam Adelson that we're gonna find a way to get the West Bank, like basically like have Israel annex parts of the West Bank, like huge parts of the West Bank, which has already been happening for a very long time. But like, this is a continuation of that at a very high level, and it's publicly taking place. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And the analogy would be it's like a fumble. A team fumbles the ball, and like the biggest, fattest, slowest like offensive lineman just picks it up, and it's like has nothing but daylight, and he's just stumbling towards the end zone.
But also at the same exact time, while this like guy is bumbling, fumbling, stumbling his way to the end zone, your entire team is like also pooping themselves simultaneously. All of them, every single person is peeing and pooing themselves.
No, absolutely. It's quite ridiculous.
That play is in the Democrats' playbook. Apparently, that's their master stroke.
So what needs to happen now, to be honest, is I'm being like kind of cheeky, but it's not going to happen.
I made a pee-poo joke. I mean, you're being kind of cheeky. What am I doing over here?
I'm just saying when I log into social media tonight, when I'm smoking a J and I log into TikTok or whatever, I better see a lot of K-Hive on here apologizing. They better, because they're the ones, they put all that energy out there about how, wait till, I don't care what happens to you Arabs, and wait till Trump kills you all, and you're gonna see what you get, and all this. And now what? Now this whole thing could fall apart. This could be some kind of a weird ruse. Who knows? This whole thing, but as you and I both play poker, we can only play the cards that are on the community table and that are in our hand. So I can't infer things that I have no evidence of. I can only talk about things. And as of right now, Trump applied the pressure to where it could be applied to where Biden refused to, because he liked to murder babies. He liked genocide. He is Genocide Joe. It took one real estate idiot to go over there on a Saturday and say, oh, well, Prime Minister Netanyahu can't see you right now because it's Shabbat. And he said, no, I don't care about that. You are a colony. Your whole country, your whole way of life exists under, the pleasure of the American state, and you will report to me now. That's what happened. And that's the kind of pressure it could be applied, because we even joked about it ourselves, is that, when Trump had his rhetoric pre-election, he goes, it's like, if I get elected, there's going to be a ceasefire, or or Hamas it's going to be hell on earth in Palestine. I mean, and it's going to be hell on earth for Hamas. And the thing is, you cannot apply pressure to men who are on death ground who have absolutely nothing to lose. You can't double genocide somebody. You can't double. You're already bringing them hell. You can't double hell somebody. So the
if
only
you blew up their family, you killed their parents, and you blew up their school and the hospitals, you can't like scare them. You can't scare those people any more than they already are.
So pressure was applied to the only faction, the only belligerent in this conflict, in this genocide that could be applied to people who had something to lose, and that's the genociders, the people who have been genociding and dealing in oppression and apartheid since 1948. So that's where the pressure always needed to go, and it was just such an easy solution. It was just like, no, you're going to do what we tell you to do, or else.
And then also at the same time, like if you look at the rhetoric of the Democrats when they're like, you know, we're working around the clock, Jack, to make sure that we're getting a ceasefire deal done. Dude. Like Donald Trump can just like walk in before his first day even and be like, I already made that happen. Don't worry about it. Like that makes you and it makes your people and like it makes you look like the biggest, most ineffective losers that you possibly can. This is like 101. Like if you're saying that you're trying really hard to do something that you absolutely have the leverage to do and you don't do it, and then the guy coming after you, who's your enemy, comes in and does it, what does that make you look like?
Right.
Like, I mean, like this is the most basic thing, and I'm not even saying that like I don't know, man. Like Joe Biden's been a politician for a long time. You think, obviously his brain is yogurt and like pouring out of his ears or whatever, but he's surrounded by people who have lived in this world and who have allegedly have experience in this kind of stuff. But like the Democratic Party and Joe Biden specifically is so bloodthirsty and so deferential towards the state of Israel that they would let that be the way that this whole thing plays out. And then here's another thing too, and I know that this is going to be how the Democrats play this, is they're essentially going to be like, let Dearborn burn. They're going to become the anti, like, I mean, they already have been, they have been long been the case, but now they're going to be the anti-Muslim Islamophobic party that is going to essentially like be the tip of the spear when it comes to disciplining that cohort of people. And you know, Republicans aren't going to oppose that. They're not going to defend it. They're not going to like be like, oh, we're actually going to stand up for the rights of Muslim Americans. And you know, it's going to be like, I'm seeing again when you keep saying this, the safeties are all like failing, and the slide down to fascism is becoming smoother and smoother every single day.
Right. No, that's 100% accurate, because the Democratic Party is going to take, again,
they do what they always do. Like when they say
they're going to go more right. Yeah.
When there's a fire or a flood in North Carolina, they're like, oh, that's a red state. Shouldn't have voted for Trump, right? Like they literally are like, F you. If you didn't support us, you don't deserve it, which is literally going to throw those people even further into the arms of the fascist party, the Republican Party, and then two, make you look like the most elite a-holes that you can possibly imagine. Like this is, I mean, again, none of this stuff is complicated. Like it's the most basic kind of thing that you can possibly imagine, but the ideological sort of like blindness, the commitment to imperialism, into capitalism, and this also specific political project of neoliberalism, and also this sort of sense that if these parts of our base, the Democratic base, ever like pick their head up and like try and assert themselves and demand anything of us, they must be disciplined. They can never be offered anything. They can never be granted anything. They can never be given anything for what they bring to the table, which is, the votes that keep Democrats in position. The only thing that can ever happen, the only way you can ever possibly deal with them, if they're not a billionaire Mark Cuban or whatever, is you have to smack them in the face and make them come to heel. And people don't deal with that in the way that you think they do.
No, absolutely.
I'm
Yeah, like
ranting now. You were supposed to be the one that was
no, you're
ranting. I'm the guy that's
fine.
ranting right now.
No, it is what it is. It's like the Democratic Party can go more, they're going to go more right because, I mean, look at their priorities. Their priorities are, um, we couldn't get Flint. We couldn't get clean water in Flint. We couldn't stop a genocide. But when it's time to make sure that Americans keep patronizing Meta and Alphabet, which is Google, and not TikTok, so they can harvest our data. Oh, we're all about that. We can get that done immediately. We can do it. We can do a TikTok ban. That's the best we can do for you. So here's where we're at, and it's just like I'm standing on. I'm in the same position with this ceasefire. I'm ecstatic. I hope it holds. I hope because this is the end for the state of Israel because there's no way out. Because look, internally they're going to be in. If the ceasefire doesn't hold, Israel's going to be the ones to break it. So they're going to look like trash there. If ceasefire does hold, then there's going to be so much internalized strife and chaos from the Israeli right wing. It's going to bring down the country. Also,
well, I think that's going to be like release valve in essentially what is going to be the annexation of more of Gaza and
I can see that
the West Bank, and that's going to be what I think brings a lot of that to internally the piece. I think what and this is like again. Like the Democrats are supposed to be the liberal Zionists that actually care about Israel. They were the ones that were like, hey, we need more blood, more blood, more blood. And like this momentary cessation of it because, this was literally making Israel a pariah state internationally.
Right.
This ceasefire helps Israel, unfortunately. Like, obviously.
See, I disagree, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I think that like the killing stops now, which is absolutely definitely needed. But I don't see I don't see Democrats opposing the annexation of more of Gaza and the West Bank. Honestly, I don't see anybody in any like high level like political anybody who has actual clout in this country opposing that. And I don't know. I don't see further annexation as being as sort of like. I don't see it as being. I mean, it's definitely bad, and I'm definitely against it, and we definitely need to find ways to fight against it. But like, it gives a excuse to national level politicians and states to essentially say, okay, Israel's chill now.
I agree with you. I will concede that the West Bank is going to be gone, but the main objectives were to destroy Hamas, which isn't going to happen. This is a win. This is a win for the Palestinians. Don't let anybody.
Oh no!
Anybody tell you different. They have
I'm saying the fight. I'm saying the war isn't over. Is what I'm saying.
No. It's not. It's not. And here's why. Because now the really interesting part happens. Because once media and once NGOs get into Palestine, and we're able to fully see the full extent of this genocide, now that makes Israel more of a pariah state. And then also anybody in the Israeli government, let alone the American government, at absolute best, who was involved in this with the Biden administration, they're not going to have the protection of the US government, and they could all potentially be in the dock of The Hague. I don't think that's actually going to happen, but the idea that Anthony Blinken will worry for the rest of his life about leaving U.S. shores.
I'll leave the country. Yeah.
That is a step that we've never seen. And I can totally see that happening because we are going down with Israel. We are also now a pariah nation. And really what Israel tried to do, if you want to break it down to to the most basic parts, and you'll get this, the most nerdiest parts. It's a game of Civilization. Civilization on PC is it's a game where you I
was literally playing Civ 6 before we got into this recording thing.
You try to defeat all the other opposing civilizations, and you can do different strategies. You can do a cultural victory where you just prove to everybody Your culture is the best by different means. You can do a technology victory to be like, hey, we've got the best technology, so y'all should align with us, and everybody says yay. You can do, or you can do the military victory to where you just military defeat every other civilization. Israel, but the thing is, you can only go for one of these win conditions. Mm-hmm. Israel tried to, what they're trying to do is go for the cultural win and the military victory at the same time. And as you know, both of us are nerdy gamers. That's impossible to do. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to have it both ways to be like, hey, we're doing a genocide. We want to kill a whole race of people, but also come to our beautiful beaches in Tel Aviv. Brother, that don't work. That's never going to fly. It never had a chance of flying. This was always how it was.
Tourism is dead for at least 10 years.
Yes, this is always how it was going to end up. Without, you'd have to go back to, like, I don't know, antiquity and barbarism to get the plan. You'd have to kill all the Palestinians, then cut out the tongues of the scribes, so nobody could know in the future
erase the entire history of Palestine,
that they ever existed. As long as one Palestinian lives, then Palestine lives.
And we've gotten to the point where any and all documentation is permanent and forever. Like,
yes,
like we're at the point, like, the internet, which has been documenting all of this stuff as it's been happening in real time. The internet's never gonna go away. Now, I'm gonna go a little bit like Metal Gear Solid 2 here for a certain amount, and just say, like, hey, at some point there's gonna be just so much noise and so much information that it can never ever be consumed by everybody.
Sure.
So it can be like, you know, if there were, God forbid, like, ever a complete destruction of Palestine, like, the history of it would still exist, but there's so much other information that exists in the world that it would get essentially drowned out, and that's the sort of scary thing. Sorry to be the Patriot AI on this one.
I mean, there'll be more. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be but misinformation is nothing new. We can find our way. I mean, this can go into, like, our second half of the show. Where I want to talk about the TikTok ban. Like,
we want to talk about a total cultural victory. Oh, buddy.
Right. But
bro, hold on a second. I gotta just, like, really quick. We're listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. If you're like Cold Warrior Grandpappy or whatever,
oh my God,
if they had known that in 2025 that America would be the side of the Cold War, the anti-quote-unquote communism or whatever it is, that America would be the side that is banning rock and roll and blue jeans, their head would just explode, right?
I don't think so. I think it would be the same kind of spin that they're spinning right now, is like China bad. So we would come up with some kind of thing. But Henry Kissinger said, just to put a capstone on Palestine, Henry Kissinger said that all the he was talking about the Viet Cong, but he said that all the insurgent has to do is not to win, is not to lose.
Yeah.
And that's what they've done. They've won. This is a complete and total victory for the Palestinian people, for the Hamas and the rest of the resistance networks. It's not as good as it can get, but it's as good as you can get in this world, which is hell. And you talked about misinformation. I mean, we see it right now to where the United States government is spinning, and the Supreme Court didn't come out. They were supposed to come out with their opinion today on the TikTok ban, and they didn't, which I think is a good sign for TikTok staying around. I don't know if it's going to stay around, yay or nay. I hope it does in America, because
like it is.
I'm making money, like, selling stuff on there, so I hope it does. But the idea that they're trying to sell us this line of how dangerous it is to China have all my data, I'm like, look here, man, like, let's talk about this for real. And I said this online in a couple different places. TikTok's one of them. I said, okay, so I'm not a subject of the Chinese government. If China has my data, what are they going to use it for? They're going to use it to my personal data. What are they going to use it for? To sell me stuff? I don't have any national security secrets. So what can they do with
social credit score?
Okay. Now, I use Facebook as of currently. I'm about to delete that. Tomorrow I'm hopefully selling my Oculus Rift because you have to have a Facebook account to even use that VR headset. So after I dump that, I'm going to delete my whole account. So Facebook, Alphabet, Twitter, whoever, who will all very willingly and readily, as they've done in the past, with no hesitation. I mean, there used to be a CIA office in like AT&T headquarters back in like the 90s, but they will give my data.
You wanted One Shell Square. I think it might still be there.
Yeah, but freely they will give my data to the U.S. government without a warrant, without even a FISA warrant. They'll just do it, right? And so with that data, the United States government can see that I'm discontent with the United States government and I'm spreading that online. That could very well possibly have me end up on a kill list. These are not conspiracies. These are things that are proven and exist.
I mean, a kill list, like one of the things that we've seen over and over again when you see somebody like Tamerlane Tsarnaev, like what ends up happening is the CIA or the FBI will go in, make contact with this person, attempt to radicalize them further, then essentially encourage them to do a terror attack of some kind, and then essentially blame it on, Al Qaeda or ISIS or whatever it is.
So with that being said, if I was to, with that information that you just spit out, if I was to travel to the wrong country, that my own government, which I was born and raised in, and I'm served in the Marine Corps and in law enforcement, if I was to travel to the wrong country, there is a less than 0% chance of me getting drone striked because the United States government has my data.
That's true. I mean,
we've done that. So tell me what's more dangerous. Zuckerberg having my information or me like sending my social security card to Xi Jinping? Tell me personally what's more dangerous.
I mean, even if you say China is a threat or whatever, or it is dangerous, if you just like assume that it's dangerous to send it to China, it's at the very best a wash. It's at very best the exact same. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. And this like digital, I don't know if y'all like it is over. Like something has. I went from being a super doomer. Like I still want out of here. Like this place is doomed. When I say this place, I mean America, but I am feeling like a joy and kind of a peace, which I have
liberating.
Yeah, like this kind of digital storming of the Bastille to where like everybody all at once is crashing Meta stock because they're all moving to. We're off TikTok now. We're still on TikTok as it stands, but now we've moved to an application called Little Red Book, literally Zhang Haozhu, and we're all just on there now. And the Chinese people are as nice can be. I posted a video today on there, which I ran through an AI filter, which dubbed me in Mandarin.
Dude, I saw
now
that.
I'm like speaking Chinese in my own voice. It's crazy.
You sent me that, and it freaked me out. I'm like, what is this?
Whoa. Like the cultural exchange of like
total cultural victory. Like that's coming.
People are asking, like, what's your healthcare like? People are like, hey, what's up with school shootings? Is that real? And we're like, yeah, dog, it's real bad. Like the idea of just people posting, Chinese people are now posting like the craziest like videos from, the subway in Atlanta or something of somebody just being weird. And they're just like, y'all really live like this? And I'm like, yeah, bro, it's really bad.
The international working class is making connections. I love it.
International, my brother. We are like literally uniting over cross, and like we couldn't have done this even a decade ago. And we're doing this is almost the cyberpunk dream, to where the novels I read as a kid, like Snow Crash and stuff like that, to where like technology is liberating people and breaking off like they're breaking shackles, and
it's not because of any single company or any of these like Elon Musk tech warlords or whatever it is. It's because people are getting more connected, and you can't credit Zuckerberg with that. You can't credit Elon Musk with that. If you can credit anybody with it, I guess it is the glorious state of the People's Republic of China.
I posted on, I want to say Twitter or X, whatever. I said the U.S. government has done more for the cause of socialism by trying to ban TikTok than 1 million DSA chapters with 1 million people on the street handing out pamphlets could have ever done. Like this, it's over. Like capitalism, it won't be in our lifetime, but it's just like it is. Like the requiem is playing, dude. It is over.
There's a crack in the glass and it's starting to spider.
The first thing you like, if you log in to Red Note, Little Red Book, Jahaju, the first thing you're going to be greeted with is just like Luigi Mangione thirst trap videos made by Chinese people.
I mean, he is a handsome fella.
And Ryan Grimm reported on this, and because he's like, I'm on there, and I was asking Chinese people, as you know, in translated Mandarin. I said, you know, why are y'all into Luigi Mangione so much? And somebody replied to him and said, the man who brings the society firewood should not be left to freeze in the cold. And it's like, whoa! I was like, that is class solidarity. Like, that's literally the international. Like,
I love
that
it.
We would sing in DSA meetings.
Dude, I love Chinese translations too, because they always come through as like ancient Chinese proverb. It's just really cool. I don't know. Maybe I'm coming across as like a little bit weird right now.
No, it's
but like
fine.
because languages are so different, the way that like I find like Chinese translations into English to be very poetic.
Right. No, I hear you. And it's not like that app has a lot of censorship. You can't talk about politics. I hope they make some kind of silo. I hope I know it's so much better for your mental health. Like on there, and it's just like beautiful women like playing bass guitar. And
you got muscle mommies riding motorcycles and stuff.
And people are just like, hi, friends, hi, Americans. And they're just like, yeah, they just want to know about you. They want to know about you. They want to tell you about themselves. It's just so much better for your mental health. I would like, honestly, if I had any say, like, even if they want to have it siloed off, like a US English version of Red Note that we can talk about politics, not Chinese politics, obviously, but American politics. But because we don't have a space in America where we can talk about American politics on an app like that. The closest thing we have is TikTok, and they want to take that from us. You know, and China has all the problems in the world. But as I don't live in China, so I'm not a tanky. But I'm not gonna speak on the Uyghur Muslims when we're over here doing a genocide. I'm not gonna throw stones at glass houses. So I'm willing to just be a guest over there.
I think you can identify that as a problem. Like, obviously, I'm against the idea of China persecuting Uyghur Muslims. Like, that's not that complicated to me or whatever. But also at the same time, you can like contextualize that in the perspective of like, oh, we do that stuff too, probably way worse in the West. So I mean, like, if you're going to use that as an excuse to vilify China wholesale, then like if you hold that like America that exact same standard, then like I don't know, man, like you're not going to look too good. Like, I'm not saying that it's even better or worse, but like you can't say that America's above it.
No, not one bit.
States are bloody. Like, that's just what it is. States are bloody.
And remember,
I'm a Westoid about some of this stuff. I mean, I'm not going to even lie. Like, I do like the sort of like the basic, at least intellectual idea of like, like freedom of speech and all this other BS that, allegedly, at least in a enumerated sense, doesn't exist, quote unquote. Again, like I'm a million, asterisks and whatever, but like that's sort of like the narrative is that these things don't exist in China or whatever. And like, I don't know, man. Like, it seems to me that America violates these principles that are supposed to be defining principles of the West versus the East all the time. So, like, I actually don't see that much of a difference when it comes to that, other than that, the governments that are in control of, well, I don't know what the Chinese government's saying because I don't have access to it. I don't hear from it all the time. But when I hear American politicians talking about China, they're all like, oh, China is gonna, China is worse. China is bad. China is going to like, China is basically going to take away all these rights. I'm like, America's already doing that. America's already taken these rights away that we supposedly have. So, I mean, like, I don't know, man. If you're not going to put forward the actual idea that you value these Western values that are supposedly so important in defining towards the Western society and Western civilization, then like, well, I don't care if China takes over. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, here's the thing. Very cynically and very like realpolitik is that the Chinese government they get it. They get it in a way that the American government does not get it. And we've said this on the show when we get to our like most cynical is that if you're okay, I talked about Luigi Mangione. A Brian Thompson cannot come to be CEO of a for-profit healthcare company in China that literally steals from people every 2 weeks and then doesn't approve their claims. Because what would happen in that situation, there wouldn't be a Luigi Mangione. The state would have arrested that guy and put one behind his ear. They would have done that with the quickness. They do it all the time because they get it. And what I mean by is they get it is they understand that, yeah, we want to do this like guided capitalism. We want to do this like
state managed capitalism. I mean,
state managed capitalism, and we want to have
not communism by any stretch. No. I mean, like let's be real about it. I mean,
no, it's not communism at all. But we want to have the Chinese the party in China says, okay, we want to have this one party rule totalitarian state with heavy social controls. So if we're going to do that, we have to give people their treats. We cannot do that without providing people with healthcare, education, a decent living, high-speed rail in the mix.
Something to watch on TV, jalapeno poppers, like all this stuff matters. Video games, like Wukong. What was it? Black what?
Black Myth Wukong. Yeah.
Here. Black Myth Wukong.
But that's not the best. Yeah, it's a great game, but that's not the best analogy because I know just being a nerd. I know like China has like heavy restrictions on like who can play video games and for how long and whatever. But you can't. But that's my
culture is coming from China. Is I guess my point.
Sure. But my point still stands is that you can't have that kind of control and then have people living in misery at the same time. To where in the United States we're not a government run by even the uniparty. We're run by capitalist corporations.
Like half a dozen guys.
Yeah, right. So you can't treat people. You can't have an authoritarian state like we have here in the U.S. where we have social control. Like try to post something crazy on Twitter or crazy on Facebook or whatever. It's going to get shadow banned. It just looks different than it does in Japan. In China.
If you're lucky, you'll get shadow banned. If you're not lucky, you'll get no knock.
You'll get a knock. Right. So you can't do that and then also have people wondering about where their next meal is going to come from or how they're going to pay rent.
It's one
or
of the
worrying about medical bankruptcy. Yeah, you can't do that. So you're burning the candle at both ends and you're just going to start a fire. Yeah, and in the middle. So they get it. They get it to where like if we're going to run this like totalitarian state, there has to be a pressure valve to where people are going to, what do I say about people being lazy? People can be like, I don't like what the government does. But Beijing's got talents on. Like it's fine, dude.
They can.
It's fine. Yeah, like you know what? My life is pretty good.
You can't look at the American government and be like they're doing the best they can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not even that they're doing the best they can. It's just that like, my life is kind of soft and I don't feel like doing another cultural revolution. The thing is because their cultural revolution
have definitely happened in China, by the way. That's definitely happened.
It's not that long ago. It's not that long ago.
Yeah.
And they learned a lesson from Tiananmen Square. They're like, we got to get these young people on board and we got to get these young people successful. And we still have they still have so many issues. But again, there's light there's actual social mobility that you can strive for. Unlike here, where it's just a hellhole. And there's what zip code you're in is more than likely 99% of the time going to determine what life you're going to lead. Mm-hmm. And you have no mobility and no chance to make any kind of inroads.
And again, and I keep saying this, like you say that idea of like your zip code determines your outcome, your fate, essentially in life. And one of the sort of like great myths that America has always said about itself is this is the land of opportunity. Anybody can be anybody in America. Like
Right.
that BS doesn't fly when, I mean, it'll fly if it's like 5% true or 10% true or 3% true or something like that. But when it's 0.001% true, where nobody gets out and nobody does better and nobody can make themselves, bring themselves and to be what they want to be and be as successful as they, through the hard work or whatever Protestant BS, exists. Like if it is very clear to the people who've been spoon fed this BS, that it's if they're basically saying like I ain't eating that BS no more,
Right.
then well, you literally have one of the major foundations of your society like has been knocked, like that cornerstone of the American society is not stable anymore. It's falling apart. It's crumbling.
Well,
it's
to be, and America's never been great, but look at the time. To my point, look at the times when.
Like, I guess my point is that like that myth was like sellable at some point.
Well, I was going to say we're saying the same thing. I was going to say, forget the technology, forget connecting with other countries, forget TikTok, forget whatever. But let's look at the time where that BS worked. It was a time where we were at least told like, hey, you deserve a chicken in every pot and 2 cars in every garage. And you worked at the plant for 20 years and you got a gold watch and a pension. And that's gone. That's gone. So if you get that, if you get your treats, the things, I shouldn't call them treats, but if you get the things you need to live a dignified life, then yeah, you're willing to swallow some propaganda.
Yeah.
But we've just been pushed way too far. We've been pushed too far. So many people see no way out, and that's just how it is. So I welcome our Chinese overlords. I'm right outside. Come pick me up, Xi Jinping, and I'm ready to go.
Well, I guess we are winding down. Any last words before we sort of like, take it off the air?
I don't know. Catch me on Red Note, Robert Johnson.
How do you download this? Like, is it
you just go right now? Yeah, it's not even side loaded, dude. It's on the ClearNet App Store. Just go on the App Store and just I mean, if TikTok does get banned, Red Note. I mean, Redbook. Yeah, Redbook's next. But who cares? Who cares? We'll just go to something else.
Get it while it's good, right?
Yeah, get in there. That's it.
Cool, man. Well, GMC is still on all the stuff: Instagram, Twitter, Bluesky, even the evil Facebook, and I guess Instagram's evil too.
Yeah, it is.
I have been active on TikTok in the this potential twilight of it. I actually got into it a little back and forth with some like Orthodox Marxists that weren't like happy about they weren't like happy that we were like, hey, AOC, we have criticisms about her, but she's doing good stuff or whatever. And they were like, no, she's a social fascist or something. Like, I hope they're watching. I invited them to like watch the show and enjoy. And if they want to keep a dialogue going, great. But like, I don't know, man. Like one of the problems I have with those kind of Marxists is that they're always sort of like analyze themselves out of any kind of action ever.
It's just order, or I just look at it like this. I don't even try to.
They're not the enemy. We like these people, but
I don't even try to like get into those points. I just say order of operations.
Yeah.
If you have a problem with her, you can order of operations.
Yeah.
The genocide is genocider in the White House right now.
Yeah. And honestly, she's been one of the more vocal, like anti-genocide people in Congress. Why are you focusing so much on her? I don't know. I don't care.
You ain't got to do that. Order of operations.
Good. So listen to Good Morning Comrade every Saturday, 10 a.m. on WHIVLP New Orleans, WHIVFM.org/listen. Find all of our stuff at goodmorningcomrade.com. Follow me on Twitter at Eminent Prof. Robert's on Red Note. When I know more about how to use that app, I'll let y'all know more. But thanks everybody for listening. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Roll up on